Thanks, Tim, and thanks everyone for staying on to listen to the BluGlass story. Really appreciate it. So as Tim said, BluGlass is an ASX listed company. We design, manufacture, and sell laser diodes. That's our business. We've had some great milestones over the last couple of months in the fact we've launched our first suite of products in late January at the largest laser diode show in the world called SPI Photonics West in San Francisco, where the reaction was fantastic. And then we announced a couple of weeks ago our first commercial sales of those products from the leads we got generated from that show. So people who would know the BluGlass story would know that we've been listed for quite some time. We have some fairly unique technology in the semiconductor space that we spun out of Macquarie University over 15 years ago. We've been looking to commercialize that for some time, but as most people would understand, we have been focused now for the last 3 years on applying that technology to actually make products that we can sell. So to build a profitable and sustainable business based on that technology, but applying it in an area where our technology will have some advantages compared to the incumbents, but also a market that allows us to succeed. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we progress. So next slide, please. And then we all know what that slide is, so we'll move on to the next slide. When we're talking about products in the laser diode space, what we're really talking about is color, so wavelength. And depending on the wavelength, depending on the color, it has different applications in different sectors. So we've launched products in the 405, 420, and 450 space. And we've also got products in development in the green. When we're thinking about the laser diodes that we're producing, they're based on a material called GaN, and GaN laser diodes work in the visible space. Visible laser diodes have some unique applications, particularly when it comes to things like industrial welding, working with copper and gold, and you know, we all probably understand that copper has some major impacts in the world when it comes to rechargeable batteries, electric cars, etc. So our initial focus on the GaN laser diode space is in the 5 sectors you see there below, being industrial, defense, scientific, biotech, and display. And I'll talk a little bit more about those as we progress. So next slide, please. So where's BluGlass today? So BluGlass is headquartered in Sydney, but we now have 2 facilities in the US, one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. And as I said at the start, we're a semiconductor company, but we're a semiconductor company based, focused on making laser diodes, not making chips. That's a completely different business to semiconductor company working on lasers. If you think about a semiconductor company that's making chips, that's $1 billion industry, $1 billion CapEx required to get up and running. The semiconductor laser diode space, that's a completely different story altogether. In fact, the manufacturing facility that we bought in California in May last year, we were very fortunate that it actually cost us only $2.5 million to acquire the equipment in that facility. And that has now given us this manufacturing capability together with our 5 reactors in Sydney, and then the downstream processing in our facility in Fremont in California. We now have a manufacturing capability of $170 million worth of product per year. Not saying we're going to sell $170 million next year or the year after, but manufacturing constraints are no longer an issue for BluGlass. When we start selling products, and we've just started that process, we will be able to fill orders because we have significant manufacturing capability already in-house. And that came about because of the changes we've made in the team and the focus on laser diodes in the last 18 months. People will know that we started to change the board nearly 2 years ago when we brought on a laser diode expert from the East Coast, Jean-Michel Pellepat from a company called Nibiru. Jean-Michel gave us a lot of insights on why we thought we were going to be successful in the laser diode space. That then led to us hiring Jim Haddon. Jim Haddon lives on the West Coast of the US. Jim joined as president and was recently announced as CEO of BluGlass. Jim's entire working career has been in the laser diode space. His last 2 roles have been scaling laser diode companies and helping to solve product design and reliability issues, which was the journey BluGlass was on. So with Jim coming on board, you know, and being able to acquire that fab last year in California, you know, we have made significant improvements in the BluGlass business, significant improvements in the BluGlass products. And that's why we were able to launch products in late January this year. And now we're starting to sell products. Of course, as a deep technology company, you would expect us to have patents. Absolutely, we do. We have over 93 granted patents in most of the major markets around the world. So we're well protected in terms of keeping our technology. Next slide, please. As I touched on, the last 12, 18 months has seen some significant progress in the BluGlass business. Obviously changing the team and bringing Jim on board, acquiring that fab. I mean, I can't overemphasize how important bringing Jim on board and acquiring that fab was to our profile. Just before we brought the fab online, we were using contract manufacturers for the downstream processing. That was really slow, very painful actually, in terms of the throughput we're getting from our contract manufacturers. With that facility coming on board, we've been able to remove most of those contract manufacturers already. And by June this year, the entire contract manufacturing process will be in-house in our facility in Fremont, and hence we'll be able to produce all the products that we're selling in-house. Next slide, please. This slide talks about exactly that process. So in Silverwater, we have 5 reactors, which is the foundation technology that we use to make lasers. We were using contract manufacturers for the things you can see in the pink circles. We've started to bring those in-house. And as I said earlier, all those manufacturing processes will be in-house by June. We do have a facility on the East Coast, which has been with us for quite some while. That is where we do some of the packaging and the final lifetime testing and reliability testing that we do before we ship to customers. So as I said, this process is now in the final stages of being in-house. And once in-house, we have a complete manufacturing capacity of $170 million a year US, which is significant when I come to talk about the market size soon. Next slide, please. So this is the core team at BluGlass. As I said, we've made some significant changes over the last 18 months. Very happy with the process that we've gone through. We have over 33 people now working in BluGlass, and more than half are in the US. And that you will continue to see our growth being based in the US because that's where our markets are. And to be honest, that's where the skill sets are. There is not a laser dyed company in Australia. There is not a semiconductor manufacturing company in Australia aside from us. So having that facility in Fremont has allowed us to attract some wonderful talent in the laser dyed space that we wouldn't be able to access otherwise. That fab has been a game changer for us, and that's why you've seen where we are today with the recent announcements. Next slide, please. Talk a little bit about the market. So laser diodes are used in almost every advanced manufacturing material process today. They are a key component of either a final product or in the manufacturing process, either from something as such simple as computer vision, robotics. It can be used in quantum computing. Lasers are a significant industry in their own right, forecast to be 25 billion by 2025. The GaN laser diode market, which is where our technology is focused and where we're focused, is a 2.5 billion market opportunity by 2025, but the fastest growing sector within the entire laser market because of the advantages that GaN has over existing other technologies. Next slide, please. So this is to give you a sense of who our customers are, the people we'll be talking to and hopefully selling to as we go on in each of the 5 sectors that we're focused on. Some of these companies you will know, some of them you won't, but they're large companies. Coherent and IPG Photonics, for example, are $3 billion plus market cap companies. And they're all interested in GaN because I haven't touched on this before, but there are only 4 GaN laser diode manufacturers in the world. Now that we are producing, we are the 4th. One of those GaN laser diode manufacturing businesses is focused on white light. Think car headlights, and that's their focus. The other 2 are large companies called Osram, a lighting company out of Europe, Nichia, a Japanese lighting company that also does lasers. They're our 2 competitors, and that's who we're up against in this GaN laser diode space. Next slide, please. This gives you a lot more detail about the sectors that we're focused on and what the applications are. I've spent a little time talking about that, so I'll move on to the next slide. But there are some great applications there. This is why we are going to win in the laser diode space. We've been talking to customers for nearly 3 years now about what do you need from a laser diode supplier? What's the things that will make you change suppliers? And what we're hearing consistently is Osram and Nichia, the big guys, are not providing flexibility on wavelengths, and they're not providing flexibility on packaging, i.e. how you buy the laser and therefore what you can do with it. They are crying out for a third supplier. So we have deliberately focused our products, and we'll continue to deliberately focus our products on multiple wavelengths, so multiple colors, and you'll be able to buy those products in different form factors. That will be sufficient for people to trial our products and start buying our products, and hence, we'll be able to capture significant market share. To give you an example, if you were buying a laser from Osram in your chair, you could only buy a TO can, which is the fourth one down on the right-hand side. They are bulky and expensive. We're going to be far more flexible when we're dealing with customers and selling products to them. Next slide, please. So this is our product roadmap. Top left is the 6 products we've already got in market, but you can see we've got a deep pipeline of other products to come. Next slide, please. So last 18 months have been significant for BluGlass. We've taken over a manufacturing facility. We've got that online. We've launched products. We're now starting to sell, and we expect us to continue to sell to new customers in new segments, leading to repeat orders over time. And with that, I'm done.
Thank you, James. Bang on time. The company's in a trading halt at the moment, obviously a capital raise, I believe. Is there anything you can say about that?
So correct, we went into a trading halt yesterday with the view of we're working with Bell Potters on a Melbourne team on a capital raise. Won't be able to say anything about that today, but we'll be obviously able to talk about that when the market opens on Monday.
Understood. And you've won some, post that conference in the US, you've obviously won some contracts. What industry is where the contracts are coming from?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. At that show, we had 5 people on the booth. We had over 300 leads that led to roughly 30 proposals being asked for the immediate products that we're currently selling. They were actually across all sectors, but particular interest in the industrial, scientific, biotech, and medical. So they were the three main sectors that got a lot of interest, but it would be fair to say we got a lot of interest from anyone who was interested in lasers, because there really is a complete dissatisfaction with the current 2 suppliers and the lack of flexibility. So the five people will just run off their feet for the whole conference.
And defence, obviously, is an industry you target. There's a lot of spending in defence globally at the moment.
Yep.
Where are you positioned there?
So I must admit, I think we're positioned quite well as the only GaN laser diode manufacturer with a base in the US. That makes us a very interesting conversation for lots of people. So, we start off manufacturing in Australia, but that whole downstream processing is done in the US. It's a US team. That should lead to a lot of interesting conversations because our 2 competitors are in Japan and Germany with no US base.
And of course, there's been some significant US government funding in the semiconductor industry. I know you're not a chip manufacturer, but is that applicable for lasers, particularly when you're talking about the defence industry?
So we're definitely working through the legislation to work out where we could play in that. Not being a US-owned company, we don't fall into all the applications that are available on the funding side, but a lot of that funding relates to scaling equipment and hiring staff, which is what we will be doing in the US. So we're hopeful there is something there, but we haven't locked that away or can confirm that's even possible.
And there's a question here from someone who obviously knows what they're talking about. The Russia-Ukraine war has affected xenon gas supply, which is used in many fabs. Do BluGlass lasers require xenon? Is this an advantage for you?
So the short answer is no, we do not, and hence more widely, we don't have issues with supply chain in terms of constraints of gases coming to us or even the GaN substrate coming to us. So we've had experienced no issues in supply chain at all.
And looking towards the end of the year, James, what are some of the milestones BluGlass is hoping to achieve?
Well, I mean, we're feeling quite confident. We've told the market a few times now that those contract manufacturing processes will be in-house by June this year. We're still on track for that. That has some massive advantages in terms of reducing our costs, increasing our margins on the products we sell, being able to do more throughput and more production runs, and hence more product development. So that's a big milestone for us, and we'll talk about that. And then more importantly, more product sales. So sales to new customers in new sectors, repeat orders, we're confident we'll get repeat orders, and therefore leading to longer supply, annual supply agreements. So I think you'll see a lot of activity from us in terms of actually the commercialization, generating revenue that you haven't seen historically.
It's what the market likes to see, James. Thank you for your time. Have a good weekend.
Great. Thanks everyone for your time. Bye.